So everyone tells you it's a horrible idea to buy Bitcoin right now. But historically, if everyone tells you not to buy Bitcoin right now, it's an amazing time to buy Bitcoin. Rolling your dice is a very important topic if you take full self-custody, which is now very important if you think about what is the future of full self-custody. What does this mean? The first thing that we have to realize, self-custody is not do you have it or not. Self-custody is a spectrum along a security line. So I come from IT security, and security is never like I am secure or I'm not secure. Self-custody will not be mainstream. I think I forgot that point to make. I don't think most people will self-custody. Who to blame? Something horrible happens, we need a villain. The same thing with like the Bitcoin bear market crashes. Who can we blame? Where can we point the fingers? Because we don't want to point the fingers at us, so we want to point fingers at someone. First of all, who's to blame? The people that hacked Bitcoin. Like that's the main people that we should blame and that we should point the anger at. Who else is to blame? Coldcard, because they messed up. They fucked up. They did something that was not okay. If you're bullish on Bitcoin and you think Bitcoin will be the biggest asset in the world, the most valuable asset in the world, wouldn't it be logical for the company that has the most amount of Bitcoin to be also the most valuable company on planet Earth?
This episode is brought to you by MicroStrategy, the smartest way to back up your seed phrase. All right, listen up, Bitcoiners. Your keys, your coins, but is your seed phrase truly safe? Introducing MicroStrategy, the smartest way to store your 12 or 24 word seed phrase. Stamp your entire seed phrase on one tiny, indestructible washer, titanium or stainless steel, waterproof, fireproof, crush-proof, small enough to hide anywhere. No guesswork, precise alignment, built to last forever. If your seed phrase is on a piece of paper, that seed phrase can get destroyed easily. With MicroStrategy, you get an entire kit to stamp your seed phrase onto this washer. It comes with everything you need, from a hammer to the washers to the stamper. It's never been easier before. Take real self-custody and protect what matters. It's time to take control of your own seed phrase with MicroStrategy. Use code TBB, as in the Bitcoin broadcast, TBB, for a discount. Go to microstrategy.io. For the link, go to the description below. All right, welcome to the Bitcoin broadcast. Today we've got on Robin again. Robin, thanks for coming back, man. How are you?
I'm doing really good. Vince, thank you so much for inviting me. Crazy times that we're currently living through in Bitcoin. It's not getting boring.
I know, it was boring there for a minute. And then I think people were just kind of like checked out. And then it was just like a bomb got dropped on Bitcoin. And now everyone's scrambling again. And it's chaos. And it is what it is, man. I feel like something like this happens every bear market. Like something big always has to happen every bear market.
Yeah, there are two main learnings that I got from that. I mean, three main learnings. I think the first main learning that I learned before, but I hope other people also learn it from the cold cuttings incident, is don't trust any third party. If you've lost a Bitcoin in the process of the Coldcard event, you've trusted Coldcard with generating your seed, and you shouldn't do that. So that's the first thing that I would say, like, don't trust any third party. If you just use Coldcard as a seed signer and not a seed generation device, you have been fine. Like, roll your dice, do your multisig, especially if you do multi-vendor, that's really great. So that's my first learning. I learned that before already, but I think hopefully most people now learned that. Now, the second one was an interesting one because we just talked about it. Bitcoin went up, and we have so many weird events happening. We have Strategy selling Bitcoin last week, and now they announced it on Monday, and I think like 1,000 something Bitcoin. At the same time, the Coldcard accident happened, which hits the Bitcoin community in the heart of it. And there's the BIP 110 thing happening also this week. So there's all of those events happening at the same time. Or Clarity Act, another thing that is happening right at that time. So all of those things happening at the time, and Bitcoin just doesn't care. It just like goes on because the price action is super stable. And I think it teaches us that Bitcoin has an extremely deep liquid market. It's really robust. It's really strong. It's not an asset that you can just move easily. Even if strategy, because they are one of the biggest buyers and sellers of Bitcoin, that's why I use them as a reference. They're selling 3,000 Bitcoin and Bitcoin went up. Like the first time they sold over 1,000 Bitcoin, Bitcoin just went up on that day. And that's not weird. It's just a matter of liquidity. If you see how much liquidity is actually there as a volume per day, 3,000 Bitcoin is actually a small amount. It's not a huge amount because so many people are buying and selling and transacting with Bitcoin every single day, which makes Bitcoin very liquid. And I think the third learning, which positively surprised me, is how strong the Bitcoin community is there for each other. I've had so many friends and people reach out to me, seeing if I'm affected, helping me out. I was not affected. I didn't even have a Coldcard, but still people reached out to me. I've seen so many other people helping all the time. Other people make their Coldcard safe, try to get the funds back. We've had red teams get funded very quickly, trying to get on the bottom of it. There was dashboards that got built in that very small amount of time where people came together and tried to figure everything out. And so the immune system response of Bitcoin is a really good one. And I love that under all that stress, Bitcoin really showed the resilience of the network. Because if you would have told me before this will happen, I thought Bitcoin price goes tanking down to like 50, 40K. And we just like today, it's now 5 days after the Coldcard event happened. And we are up since then. I think even like 2, 3, 4%, something like that. So it's not a huge thing, but it shows how resilient Bitcoin already is.
Yeah, I thought the price would have tanked, man. So I was on vacation when it all happened. And so I got all the messages, dude, if you have Coldcard, like you need to read this, like get your stuff off Coldcard. So that was awesome from the community to I just had friends reaching out constantly, making sure. Luckily, I didn't have a Coldcard. I don't have one. I almost got one recently. I was like, oh, I should probably just do it, just get the Coldcard, but I didn't. Very glad I didn't now. But dude, the price action is very surprising to me. So we recorded the first time October 30th, and that was it was almost peak price. I think it was 110,000. I had to look it up, and it was about 110,000. It closed at 108. So right off the all-time high, basically. And man, we were we were very optimistic at the time because we were like, oh man, October, we're going so much higher. November, December, we all thought we were going higher, and now, yeah, we're down about 50%, and then this bad news happens and Bitcoin didn't move. I think it dropped for it went down to 62K and then just rebounded right back. And now we're up again, up to 64 or something. And I thought something like this would cause a pretty big cascade of trust in, self-custody. People would be like, that's it, I'm out. Kind of a last straw thing. If you've been in Bitcoin since 2020, 2021, if you bought at the all-time high, we're dead even. So you haven't made money, you haven't lost money. And people that have invested for 5 years are I could see them being, this is the last straw. I'm out, man. I just want my money back. But it didn't happen. It was kind of interesting. What are your thoughts about the price action?
I think first of all, we had a very damped high last year. I think we've seen now with the institutional adoption of Bitcoin and with the players around Bitcoin that the Bitcoin price cycle definitely has changed. If you look at, for example, a C-score on-chain analytics, you see very clearly that the last bull market that we had was not as dramatic as a bull market as previously bull markets have been. But if this is the bottom where we currently are, the bear market also is not as bad. So the volatility is just dampened down, which I think makes sense. And I'm not saying this is the bottom. We can definitely go lower, but I think we're very close or near a bottom. And this, you can kind of see that the sellers are exhausted. The people that are FUDing Bitcoin have FUDed it all the way down, and they're kind of exhausted. There's not really a lot more to attack. And so we are at that depressing moment where a lot of bulls capitulated, where a lot of sellers kind of ran the victory laps, and where they kind of like are happy with it, and they are kind of exhausted with selling, because you can only sell Bitcoin that much before you run out of sellers. You can only short it as much as before you run out of people that short it. And now we have institutional buyers and also big capital pools that just want to buy it. They just want to have that asset. And so we are in a very nice situation where I don't think we can go that much lower. It doesn't mean we can go to 40K easily, depending on what happens. It's always a little bit depending on events that might happen in the future. But you can look at different aspects of Bitcoin. You can, for example, look at on-chain analytics. You can look at the power law. You can look at the 200-week moving average. There's so many different models that you can look at. And I'm not a trader. I'm not someone that tries to like buy and sell Bitcoin and tries to get the perfect price. But if you look at all of those models, it's very clear that all of them are currently saying this is a deep value zone. And I call it deep value zone because I don't want to call it bottom, because we can always go lower. It's tomorrow we can go to like 55K and it wouldn't be a big news. And I'm completely wrong. Like it's very, very easily possible. And so I call it deep value zone because this is the zone where if you buy around here instead of the tops and the middle ranges, you get an outsized return, which people don't get. The time that we're currently in is the best time to buy Bitcoin, but it's the hardest. You have to have immense conviction because the media tells you don't buy Bitcoin. Your uncle, your cousin, your partner maybe even tells you don't buy Bitcoin right now. So everyone tells you it's a horrible idea to buy Bitcoin right now. But historically, if everyone tells you not to buy Bitcoin right now, it's an amazing time to buy Bitcoin. It's where you exchange a Bitcoin CAGR from like 20, 30, 40% per year to a Bitcoin CAGR of 50, 60, 70, 80% per year. So you can basically 2x, sometimes even like 3x the returns or the purchasing power you get with buying Bitcoin if you concentrate your buys around that very value zone. Now, I'm a believer of not selling Bitcoin at the top because you never know where the top is. We could have easily ran through 250K and I would have been an idiot for selling at like 110K or 120K. But I know people that sold a good punch of Bitcoin at 120K and they're laughing now at me. I'm like, yeah, like you have been a genius. Next time you will lose a lot of money. It's the game that we're playing. So I like the concept of just looking at the market and weighing my DCAs. So if we are in a deep value zone, I try to have a little bit more powder ready to be more aggressively buying in those zones. And when we are like 2-3 times as high, or like way further away from the 200-week moving average, if the C-score is very high and all of those metrics are very high, I try to be a little bit more conservative with my buys, maybe have a little bit of a bias of Bitcoin, but still also push my, as Seyr now calls it, the US dollar reserve, your personal US dollar reserves a little bit higher. Maybe look at other things that you can also buy. So like, this has been now my new strategy of looking where we are in the Bitcoin price cycle and buy more aggressively when we're lower and buy less aggressive when we are higher. Because one thing I can guarantee, we will go a lot higher. Everyone will be euphoric again and will be like, let's buy, let's borrow against the Bitcoin, let's lend, let's do all those crazy things. And then we're crashing again because people get too euphoric. They're getting too excited. This will happen again. And then I want to be ready again to have dry powder, to have my fiat dollars sitting there and just deploy into Bitcoin. Because it does make, in my opinion, a difference if you get if I don't know, if you have, let's say, 10K ready to buy, and you buy it at 60K, you get twice as many Bitcoin as you would get at like 120K or 250K. So it does make a little bit of a difference when you buy, as long as you're clever with it. So for most people, DCA is a great methodology of getting Bitcoin exposure. But if you've been longer in the game, especially if you already built your stack and you're already kind of like 80+% with your liquid net worth in Bitcoin, at that point, you're very well exposed to Bitcoin. And at that point, it makes more sense to be a little bit more strategic with your buys. So if you already have a very nicely built out position, maybe slow down with the buyings when we're in an absolute bull market. And when in a bear market like that, you can just deploy more and more. And then you see the bull market will reward you. And then in the bull market, you can kind of either spend more in your life or put it something in savings in the US dollar. So you have in the bear market some dry powder to shoot at some Bitcoin prices.
No, I agree, man. I remember last cycle in 2020, I think right around 60K, I ended up like throwing a decent amount of cash at Bitcoin because we went up to 69 and it came back down to 60 and everyone was saying 100K, right? And so I fell for like the hype and everyone was like, yeah, we're going to 100K. So it dropped down to 60K and I like deployed a whole bunch of capital and yeah, then it went down to like 15.5 or whatever. So I'm like, I agree with you, man. If you've been in Bitcoin for a long time, it's like you can be strategic with where you put your money. I mean, when we're in this value zone, as you called it, like there's no reason why you shouldn't be like DCAing hard. I think I've been doubling my DCAs. I've been tripling them. Every time we get extra money, it's like even more goes into Bitcoin. I'm with you. I'm not trying to time this bottom. If we go to 55, if we go to 50, if we go to 45, obviously that will just become more, greater value. But it's going to be even more difficult for those people to be buying in those ranges if their uncle in the news is already telling them not to buy. Like the lower we go, the harder it is, but the more rewarded you get. And I'm basically on the same page as you, where I'm trying to strategically deploy my capital where, the bottom, 10-15% of price ranges, I want that much Bitcoin. You get so much more Bitcoin when you're at a 50, 60, 70% discount. And buying at the top is like, it kind of sucks. Like it doesn't feel good, man, when you buy at like 120K with conviction that we're going to 200 and now we're sitting down at 64K. You're like, man, if I just waited like a couple more months, I could have bought a lot more Bitcoin. And I think a lot of people that are in our little Bitcoin bubble are kind of realizing that too. Obviously, retail on the outside of Bitcoin is probably going to keep falling for the same thing. They'll buy the hype, take out the loans, take out leverage and all that. But yeah, it's been interesting. And I think I've grown a lot in the past like 4, 5, 6 years in Bitcoin. And I'm with you on that, man. I'm scared to say that, like, we're going to go, oh, what is this?
I just wanted to show you this because I think it's important for people to realize. I use something very simple, just Bitcoin versus US dollar on Google. And you see here the height. I think it was a little bit higher than Google shows here, but the height in November 2021 was like 69K or something like that. And we needed from that very high 3 years roughly, or like 2.5 years, something like that. Yeah, we needed like a little bit more than 2 years to get back above that line. And that's why it's important to DCA, because if you started, if you put all your money in right here at the very top and you didn't buy anything here at the bottom, you had to wait a long time to get your return back up. But if you started slowly, conservatively buying right here, and you slowly bought more and more and more, your cost averages slowly down, and you actually get more return in that massive bull market that came after that. Now, you never know how long such a period goes. Can be longer, can be shorter. But I think it's very important for people to realize we can go to a height and you can be very euphoric. And that's obviously right now not the case. But I think it will be the case 2027, 2028 when we roar back up to maybe 200K, maybe 300K. And then people are like so excited. We're going to 1 million. Like we're going for at least 500K. They're buying all in. They're leveraging their balls out. And then we are going down back to like 120K. They get liquidated. They have to sell your Bitcoin and they lose a lot of money. I've seen it too many times. I've seen it with friends of mine. I've seen it with people that reach out to me and DM me asking me about the Bitcoin strategy. It's crazy to see that people get liquidated so much. Be very conservative with credit. I've changed my opinion a little bit on credit. I now think it can be an interesting strategy, but I'm still very conservative. Like, don't do it if you really don't have to, and only if you really know what you're doing and where you know your liquidation prices and all of those are. And the second learning out of that is like, be mindful with your DCA. Do a DCA. DCA is very important, but be mindful with it and don't go all in nuts just because like you got excited or you get fear of missing out. Just like learn your way into it. And the same way with custody, because we talked about Coldcard before. Many people don't realize that, but when you buy your way in and all of a sudden you go all in and then people tell you, oh, you have to take self-custody, which is important. But have you actually understood what it takes to do self-custody? Do you know why you have to roll your dice and what entropy is? Do you know what a multi-sig is versus a single sig and all of those things? If you don't know, take your time, slowly learn, and don't just like rush into self-custody just because your favorite guy tells you to do so. And you should take self-custody, but you should take your time with it because it's your life savings and your financial energy that's on the line.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, really quick. Am I frozen to you?
No, like you're fine.
Oh, okay. You're frozen to me for some reason, but that's okay. I can still go. But anyway, so I mean, we could talk about Coldcard. I mean, it's been, like you said, like 5 days since it happened. I think it's now at like $100 million has been hacked, around 1,300 to 1,400 Bitcoin, and I still don't understand. Like I said, I was on vacation when this happened, and it was my anniversary, so I told my wife I wouldn't look at my phone very much, and so I didn't like scroll Twitter. I didn't read any articles, like nothing. So I've been kind of catching up in like the last 24 hours, basically. I mean, how did this even happen? Like, what happened with Coldcard? Like, what did they do so wrong that this was able to happen to one of like the best, people recommended Coldcard everywhere? Like, how does this even happen to, a self-custody wallet? Like, it's pretty devastating to a lot of people. Luckily, it was a pretty small percentage of like the total, Bitcoin economy, but it's still like, that's devastating. Like, people tell you to use Coldcard, and it's like a vault. Once you have it on Coldcard, then you're set, and you have your seed phrase, your passphrase, and it's, you keep that safe. Like, I've always heard that. I've never not heard that. I've never heard anything bad about Coldcard besides like it can take a little bit of time to learn, or like the user experience is a little tough. But like everyone that I've ever heard recommended Coldcard pretty much since it came out. So how does this even happen, dude? Like, what happened?
I want to show you a video after quick explain that. But it's basically you have to know entropy and how entropy works. And the very simple explanation of what happened is they had a shitty entropy algorithm that made your seed. And so what I said before already is Coldcard is a great seed signer, but not a great seed generation device. So if you use the Coldcard and made your own entropy, so you basically how should I explain it for someone that doesn't know entropy? Like how to secure your seed phrase is in a way that you have those words and you have to pick those words from various different angles, and you cannot pick them yourself because you have your own. Like humans are very bad in randomness. And actually, computers are also not as good in randomness. So if you want to pick from like 10 people, 5 people that are random, or like if you want to pick from 8 million people, 5 that are random, it's very hard for you to do because you have your subjective opinion, you have your filters on, and you will never pick at a random pace. And the same way computers have a very hard time picking random stuff because they follow patterns, they follow certain things. And so how do we create entropy? We dice, because the dice every time is has its own chance and cannot be having a pattern. And so like the more you dice, the more entropy you get, where you hear people talk about 60 bits or 120 bits. And so basically, I don't want to make it too difficult and too technical, but it's secure starting from around 120 bits, and Coldcard only used 70 bits. But Coldcard themselves, and most people that recommended Coldcard, said multiple times, don't trust, verify. So do your dice rolling. And you could have easily done that with Coldcard. Now, if it's okay for you, I would love to show you a brief video, because this, I think, explains why entropy and randomness is so important. Let me share this with you. I hope you can also see let's make this bigger.
A Bitcoin wallet is
Do you hear that?
Yep.
Awesome. Then let's play it.
A Bitcoin wallet is protected by a seed phrase, a list of words that acts like the master key to the wallet. If someone discovers that phrase, they can take control of the Bitcoin inside. So what stops an attacker from simply guessing it? The answer is the number of possible seed phrases.
And this is, I think, a very important thing, because a lot of people actually ask me that, because they say, hey, there's those words that I know of. Why can I not just take any 24 words and just guess a seed phrase that someone is using? That's theoretically possible if someone has a really bad chosen 24, 12 words. And that's why it's important to use the randomness in that private key area. Why you should not rely on any entropy, and why you should actually roll your own dice. So that video really makes that specific part about securing your Bitcoin, I think, very nicely seen.
A properly configured Bitcoin wallet chooses its seed from an incomprehensibly enormous pool. The larger and less predictable that pool is, the harder it is for an attacker to search. This is where randomness matters. The wallet needs a reliable source of randomness so that no one can predict which seed it will choose. But in affected Coldcard firmware, a bug caused the wallet to use a more predictable software generator. The seed phrases still looked random to their owners, but they were being selected from a much smaller set of possibilities. To understand how much smaller, let's turn those possibilities into something we can compare. We will let one atom represent one potential Bitcoin seed phrase. Somewhere in the full collection is one key atom, the seed that unlocks the wallet. We begin with a single atom, representing a single possible seed. Now zoom out to a protein. A protein contains about 2 to the power of 10 atoms. If this were the entire pool, a computer could test every possibility and find the key atom almost instantly. Zoom out again to a large virus, containing about 2 to the power of 30 atoms. In our simplified model, every potential Bitcoin seed phrase created by the affected Coldcard firmware fits inside this virus as atoms. A computer could search that full set in about 3 hours. That may sound enormous, but how does it compare with the search pool of a correctly generated 24-word Bitcoin seed phrase? Would it fill a grain of sand? A grain contains about 2 to the power of 60 atoms. Not even close. What about Jupiter? At roughly 2 to the power of 180 atoms, it is still nowhere near large enough. The entire Milky Way contains roughly 2 to the power of 225 atoms. Surely that must be enough. Not quite. A properly generated seed has 2 to the power of 256 possibilities. To represent every one of those possibilities with an atom, we would need about 2 billion galaxies the size of the Milky Way. To hack a properly configured Bitcoin wallet, an attacker would need to find one specific atom hidden somewhere across those 2 billion galaxies. That is the scale of the Coldcard bug. It reduced the challenge from finding one atom across 2 billion galaxies to finding one atom inside a large virus.
And I think that's the best explanation video that I've ever seen on that very specific Coldcard issue. So you basically make the number of possibilities way too small. And with that, you decrease the time that it takes to hack. And if you really randomize it nicely and you roll your dice, it's so random. It's
when you
so
mean,
nice.
sorry, when you say roll your dice, what do you mean? Because that's a new term to me. I learned that term literally a couple days ago on vacation. I heard people say roll your dice, and I was like, what in the fuck does that even mean? Roll my dice, what does that mean?
It means what actually the word actually says. So you take a dice like I think everyone knows, like a dice with 1, 2, 3 till 6. So it has the 6 sides, and it has on each side a number 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. And you take that, and for example, in the Coldcard or most other wallets also, some wallets don't allow that you have your own entropy. And they actually say oh, roll your first dice. What was it? Roll your second dice. What was it? And with that, you rolling that dice and making that dice go over your own desk and choosing that number that comes on top of it. With that process, you make your own entropy because you make it impossible to have any patterns. It's just impossible then to have any flaws in that logic. Because if you do not roll your own dice and you just look at the list, someone actually brought a question up. What if I just randomly pick 12 or 24 words out of that word list? I can guarantee you that it's not as random as you think it is. Because humans are horrible in picking random things. And so don't rely on you just picking 12 words that you like or don't like, because you will most likely pick words that you like, even if you don't know about it. And then they will be similar. And then there is a cluster. As you've seen, if we go back to that video just briefly for the visualization, you have that virus that is very small. And then we zoomed out not only to a planet, not only to multiple planets, but to 2 billion galaxies. It's like such a massive scale of randomness. So if I tell you, hey, here is a small box, maybe that's also interesting to see. Here's a small box of sand, and there's somewhere a sand cone that has a different color than the other ones. It's yellow or something. Search it. It's hard to find because a sand is not that big, but you will find it if you have long enough time. But if I tell you there is 2 billion different galaxies, in each galaxy there might be one of those sand cones, and there's those big Earths that you have to drive to every single beach and find that one small tiny yellow sand cone. That's a lot bigger task that you will never finish in all of your life. So that's what I mean with randomness. And with rolling your dice, there's many different methods you can do it. I recommend people just go, if you have a Coldcard, go to BTC session, search Coldcard setup. He always rolls his dice. If you have any other device, just search for a tutorial of a trusted person and follow it step by step, because it's a little bit different with every device, how exactly you do it. You could technically do it without any device. that's a thing that also people learn from that. You don't necessarily directly need a seed signer just to create a wallet and create all those things. I think people should have a seed signer to do those things to make it not too complicated. But it's not a vault. So like Coldcard or like Ledger or Treasure or Bitbox or like whatever you're using, it's not a vault where the Bitcoin are on. It's just the device that helps you sign transaction from one place to another. And so it's very important that you're not trusting that one device, like not at all, except if you have like, I don't know, 500 or like $1,000 in Bitcoin. Like don't buy 3 devices. Like you can trust a little bit more, but still do your own entropy because you're like super safe. So that's kind of like what I mean with rolling your dice. It's actually like there's a dice. You actually roll it.
Okay, so this might sound so dumb. So do you use like 1 dice, 2 dice, 6 dice, and then you roll it? And so what do? Let's say, the numbers, you have 3 dice and you roll 3 dice and the numbers come up, 1, 3, and 5. What do? Do you add that up? And then like what do you do with that number? What does a dice tell you to do? You know what I mean?
It's, so like that's specific for each, like for what hardware wallet also you're using. But it's actually an interesting question when you think about how many dices you use, because a dice itself can also have a specific pattern. So people went ahead and used many, many different dices. But it's a deep topic of like how you actually roll your dice, and it's also specific to what device you're using and what method you're using. There are different methods to do those things. So I would recommend, like seriously, I love Ben. He's a great guy. Go to Ben BTC session. He has all those tutorials. It would be I think a waste of time me trying to explain it because I'm just not as good on the technical side as Ben is. But it's very important that you do have your own entropy, and I think people should know it, why it is so important. And I think that video does a great job explaining you why entropy matters. And I love that the Bitcoin community just learned about dice rolling and entropy, because previously I thought that only real paranoid anarchists like me like thought about like the entropy level of their seed phrase. People don't like, what?
Yeah. Okay, so that makes sense. And we don't have to get into the super technical part about it, because I'm not technical either. I never claimed to be, and there are way better people out there to explain this kind of stuff. This is just, for people like me who aren't, that technical. It's like you kind of get a basic understanding of it. And if you want to dive deeper, you can and you should. The one thing that like kind of bugs me about this whole thing, man, is teaching someone about Bitcoin is one thing, right? A lot of people already have a preconceived notion of what Bitcoin is. They either think it's a scam, they think it's a pyramid scheme, or, there's so many people out there that just don't trust Bitcoin already. And then to walk them through, hey, why don't you trust Bitcoin? And you finally get them to trust Bitcoin, right? And then they start buying Bitcoin, and then they get excited about Bitcoin, and then they start learning about why the Fed sucks, and what happened in 1913, what happened in 1971, what happens to the dollar, inflation. They go down all that rabbit hole, and then all of a sudden they're like, holy shit, like I have a decent amount of Bitcoin. And then you're like, all right, now you got to put it on a wallet, self-custody, right? And then that's a whole nother rabbit hole of, well, I'm not technical. Self-custody scares the crap out of me, but I got to learn it because I got to put my Bitcoin on somewhere else that I'm in control of, because that's self-sovereign. And then now we're talking about taking it a step further because of a stupid hack from a great wallet, supposedly great wallet. Now people are like, dude, what the fuck? Like, I learned about Bitcoin. I put it on the wallet. I took the risk. I had anxiety for months about it. And now it's on this wallet. And now the wallet's failing and people are able to hack into my wallet based off of a seed phrase thing, and now I have to learn how to roll dice. It's the point I'm getting at and playing kind of devil's advocate is Bitcoin, if we want it to be universal, has to be somewhat simple. Like, it's gonna be really difficult to get normies and people on board with this. Like, people are not gonna roll dice, dude. Like, I just know it. People are not going to. They want to be able to put their Bitcoin on a wallet, on their phone. They know it's safe. Even if they can take it offline, they know it's safe. And now with Coldcard hacking, it's like, well, shit, is Trezor safe? Is Ledger safe? Is this little device that I have that someone told me is safe? Is my Bitcoin safe? Do I put it back on Coinbase? Do I put it on an exchange again? Like, that stirs up so many emotions in people, especially newer people. Like, that's terrifying. And I think that's the worst thing that came from this is, like, it's gonna be even more difficult to convince people to self custody their own Bitcoin. Do you know what I mean?
100%. I think it will be a different journey. I have a strong opinion on what you just said. I just want to bring that briefly up for people because I talked about it. This right here is a great video from BTC Sessions, how to safely dice roll for any device. It's an hour long. That's what I meant of, like, there's a lot to it. So you can talk a long time just about that specific topic, even though it seems like very small and niche. There are also other ones. Forrest Hodl, also a good friend of mine, just did it right now, obviously because people need to know about it. But people also already talked about it 2 years ago for Southern Bitcoiner, Forrest also 9 months ago with a Coldcard, funny enough. So, like, rolling your dice is a very important topic if you take full self-custody, which is now very important if you think about what is the future of full self-custody. What does this mean? The first thing that we have to realize, self-custody is not do you have it or not? Self-custody is a spectrum along a security line. So I come from IT security, and security is never like I am secure or I'm not secure. Yeah. You have a spectrum, a lineage of how secure are you? Like, what is the percentage of how safe you actually are? And the same with self-custody. You have on the left side where you are not secure at all, where you have, not secure, not self-custodying at all, where you have an ETF, where you have Bitcoin on exchange that doesn't give you your own keys. Like, even with exchanges, there are different sorts of exchanges that give you different types of control. There are exchanges that don't allow you to withdraw your Bitcoin. That's the least amount of self-custody that you can possibly have. Then there are exchanges that allow you to withdraw. There are exchanges that are self-custodial. So you get your keys, but they have the node and they operate. So they're very different, even in exchanges, very different levels of how self-custodial, how much sovereignty, how much freedom they're giving to you. And then we have collaborative custody. Collaborative custody also has many different colors and flavors, if you so will. There is collaborative custody where one party holds one key and you hold 3 keys, 4 keys, and they help you with everything, but you hold most of the keys, so they cannot do anything without you. But you're also relying a little bit on them. There are self-custodial setups where you have 1, 2 keys and other parties have more keys than you. So they can actually conclude against you, can do something, but you still have a key. So it's better than exchange, but it's not that you have all the keys. There are multi-institutional custody where you have 1 key with yourself and you give 2 or 3 other institutions also a key. So it's very unlikely that they conclude against you, but it's also you don't have all the keys. So, like, it's possible. And then there is, like, down the line a bit key, for example, where it's like multi-sig, you have it all, but you you trust BitKey a lot because you cannot use your own entropy and all of those things. The earlier devices didn't even have the screen on it. Then there is the super self-sovereign way down on the other side, where you don't rely on anything, like the video title showed on BTC Session. Trust nothing, not even the entropy of the device itself. You're sitting there with pen and paper and rolling some dice, and you're like, yes, that's how I do it. Like, you're on the whole other spectrum. And I think there will be way more flavors in the future. There will be way more things on that spectrum of how self-custodial you will be. Think about Apple. What if Apple discovers Bitcoin and you can now sign a transaction? If you hold your iPhone to your Apple Watch, or your iPhone and your iPad together can sign a transaction, but one device cannot. You need 2 devices out of 3 devices, something like that. So there will be very different flavors, and it will be on one side very convenient, on the other side very secure. So you always have to trade security with convenience. The more security you get, usually the less convenient it gets for you, and the more expensive it sometimes also gets. So you have to trade what you want. If you have not a lot of you also have to think about how many Bitcoin do you have. If you have right now 0.01 Bitcoin, don't invest too much in self-custody, because first you should build the stack. Otherwise, it's not worth securing it super secure. If you have 10 or 30 Bitcoin or 100 Bitcoin, you should really think about your security setup. You should really think about your self-custody setup. And you should even think about multi-vendor, multi-wallet solutions, where you have maybe one you have in collaborative custody, maybe one in the most self-sovereign way where only you can come there. There's no third party at all. Then there's one in exchanges. Then there's one in a time lock where you can only get it after a certain amount of time. Just distribute your risk across different vendors and different setups. The more you have, the more paranoid you also have to get, because you get a bigger target. Bitcoin is publicly available, so the more Bitcoin is concentrated, the bigger target you also get. And the more outspoken about Bitcoin you are, the bigger target you get, and the more you have to think about all those things. It would be great if we don't have to think about it. How amazing would it be if you just have Bitcoin in a hot wallet on an iPhone, and that's all? Like, you cannot lose it, nobody can hack it. Like, how amazing would that be? If, like, I don't know, I have a blue wallet on my phone, and from there I can do everything, and I can just store 30 Bitcoin on there.
Yeah.
Don't do that. Like, do not store like a huge amount of Bitcoin on a hot wallet or something. So it's very important that we think about our self-custody setup, and it's very different for many different people.
Well, I'll add on to that. I mean, even if you don't have 10 Bitcoin, you have to think about the future purchasing power of your Bitcoin. So even if I agree with you, you should increase your stack first. Like, don't go drop a couple grand on self-custody solutions. And if you have, $1,000 or even $5,000 worth of Bitcoin, like, put that money towards buying Bitcoin first. But even if you have, half a Bitcoin, 1 Bitcoin, 2 Bitcoin, you have to think about what that's going to be worth in the future, and protect that as well. Because if Bitcoin's only $60,000 right now, but you believe it's going to be worth 600,000 or $1 million, in the next 10 whatever years, like, you should probably protect that as well. But the biggest issue I have with this whole thing is people, they thought they were doing the right thing. They thought that they were safe with Coldcard, and then it turns out that they weren't. So that's like the biggest unfortunate thing, I think. And then obviously,
like, they trusted Coldcard, and like, you cannot trust a third party. You like, if you trust a third party, do your research nicely, and like, make sure you don't have all your life savings in that one third party. So like one third party cannot screw you over. But if you use the entropy algorithm from Coldcard, you trusted Coldcard with a very important piece of self-custody, and you shouldn't do that.
So then what about all the other wallets? If you have it on Ledger, Trezor, like you said, BitKey, if you have it on any other of these hardware wallets, are you trusting them too? So do I have to build my own hardware wallet? What's like the ultimate goal here? Because at some point, like, dude, I'm not building my own hardware wallet. Like, that's not happening. Like, I'm going to buy one from someone that is way smarter than me. And I guess I'm trusting them that their device doesn't mess up like Coldcard does. Or, yeah, what do you, like, at some point you have to trust someone a little bit, right?
Yeah, like there's obviously always trust involved. There's always trust with some things involved. But I try to diminish reliance on third parties. And how do you do that? If you think about, if you have a gold, if you have like, let's say 10 gold coins and you have it right here in your presence and you're like, where do you keep them? If you just keep them in your house, you run into a lot of risks because someone might come to know that you have 10 gold coins in your house and just steal it away from you, come with a weapon inside your house, and maybe you have bad security in your house and they just take it. They can also burn. You might have to find it again. Maybe you find it after the fire, but I don't know if you have gold in your house and it melts down in the fire. I don't know about the physics of that, but it could be unretainable after that. So what do? You try to distribute your exposure to any third parties, and you are also a third party. Basically, you're the first. You're kind of the first party, but you give maybe 2 gold coins to someone that you know and trust. You give 2 gold coins to the bank. You give 2 gold to someone else, and you kind of distribute the reliance on something. So, for example, let's just use the example of banks. If you have 10 gold coins, you can research 7 banks and give the gold coins 2 there, 1 there, 2 there, 1 there in different bank vaults scattered across your city would be one choice. But if you want to be even more secure, scattered across your city, another continent, another nation, somewhere like it's very distributed. Now, the same thing you can do basically with your Bitcoin keys. You can go nuts and make like a 5 out of 7 multi-signature thing. Not what I recommend, but you can go nuts and say, hey, I can put on every single continent that there is a different key. And I use different hardware wallets with each key. And I use people or banks or different vendors that make such a service that have no clue about each other, that like have no like lineage to each other. And so if you do that, you eliminate basically that they can conclude against you, and you eliminate that if one goes wrong, you still have a lot of other ones. And then you have to do health checks and all of those things. So that's not a recommended setup, by the way, but you can distribute your risk. That's what I'm trying to say. And this is so hard to put in a YouTube video because it really depends on every single individual situation. So if you are a single guy, it will be a little bit different to when you are a married guy. It will be a little bit different to in what jurisdiction you live. It will be different to what stack size you have. Like it has so many different variables to what you're actually wanting to accomplish and how you do that. So that's why it's always hard to talk about self-custody in a YouTube video, just because if there are 1,000 people watching, they have like 400 different situations.
Yeah. Okay. No, that makes sense, man. I think people will, they'll start to understand this. I think it was a wake-up call for a lot of people. I think a lot of people are, now realizing like, hey, maybe my security setup needs to be a little better.
But self-custody will not be mainstream. I think I forgot that point to make. I don't think most people will self-custody. I think only a small portion that take their sovereignty and their security to a maximum, they will do self-custody. The remaining people will not. It just won't be happening. As you say, you have to jump through so many hoops to do proper, fully self-sovereign, self-custody that only freaks like us will do it.
Yeah, like my mom's not doing it, man. Like there's no way, but like, hopefully what happens is, there's people like you and me, and a lot of other Bitcoiners out there that have children, and we teach our children about it, and then they know. And so more and more people, I think younger generations will probably pick up on it quicker than, people like me. So I think, they're just more technology, native. So I think it will grow, but I do agree, man. Most people just want to be told what to do, where to hold their money. They don't give they don't give a crap about it. They just want to be rich. They want to hold their Bitcoin and hope it goes up to 10 million a coin, and then they want to sell it so they can buy a house or something. So I think you finally, it takes a special person that actually wants to be secure, self-sovereign to get to that point. It's like most people don't own a bunker for, a nuclear war type scenario, a zombie apocalypse. There's like some people out there that do. And it's like those people are prepared for a different scenario. And Bitcoiners are, you got to prepare for the scenario that you want to be prepared for. And that depends on your security and how deep you want to go down that rabbit hole. I did want to ask one more question about Coldcard, because this is kind of controversial. A lot of people are holding influencers responsible for promoting Coldcard, and I think it's a gray area. It's not a black or white. It's people like BTC Sessions has a million videos out there about how to do it, but there's a lot of people out there that promoted Coldcard and are like, yeah, this is like the best thing. And it's like, I don't think we should be blaming any type of influencer or another Bitcoiner for promoting or saying that, this device is good or not, and recommending Coldcard. Like I said, I've been hearing it since I ever got into Bitcoin. Coldcard is kind of like, a great wallet. And I feel bad for obviously the people that lost a ton of Bitcoin, their life savings, but I don't know if we can hold like an influencer responsible. It's kind of on the Coldcard people, right? Or am I wrong in this? Is it bad that like they paid people to promote their product and those people promoted the product and got kind of an affiliate kickback, and then but they had no idea, right? Yeah, I'm kind of messing with this in my head as I'm talking to you, but I don't know. It's a tricky situation.
There are three sides to that. And like full disclosure, I've never promoted Coldcard directly. So I've never like promoted them or like had a discount code or any affiliation whatsoever. But I did always, if someone asked me about Coldcard, said it's a solid wallet and you can use it. And I personally never actually used it. So I always said when someone asked me about Coldcard, I don't use it, but I only heard good things. So that's just full disclosure for people to know like what's my position and what's my thing with Coldcard. Now, who to blame? Something horrible happens, we need a villain. The same thing with like the Bitcoin bear market crashes. Who can we blame? Where can we point the fingers? Because we don't want to point the fingers at us, so we want to point fingers at someone. And we do that, I think, mostly currently with Seyr. I think people blame Seyr for the bear market and make him a villain, which is hilarious to see, because just a year ago he was celebrated as a hero in Bitcoin Prague. I've seen it, like people came up to him, like looked at him like a god, and now people are like throwing dirt at him because the Bitcoin price is down. And I can guarantee we're going back up, and Seyr will be the god again. I think people need to get out of their emotions and start pointing the finger back at them and not at other people. That's my personal conviction. But specific to the Coldcard incident, to the Coldcard event. First of all, who's to blame? The people that hacked Bitcoin. Like that's the main people that we should blame and that we should point the anger at, because I think it's not okay to hack other other people's life savings and take it for yourself. I think that's not fair. I think that's not right. I think that should be 100% not okay to do. And those should be the main people that should get the blame. Because they could have also tried to hack it and reported the bugs, reported those things, and be like a good hacker and like not take the funds, but just do this and say, hey, I want to get a small bug bounty for that, and I'm on my way. I know I come from IT security space, and people actually have bug bounty programs. For example, Bitbox has a bug bounty program, and a lot of other Bitcoin companies have bug bounty programs. So they say, hey, if you find a bug somewhere in our software, somewhere in our website, somewhere in our hardware, you report it to us, and if it's legit, we'll pay you for that. And that's kind of incentivizing people to hack the thing and legally and get money paid, and the whole thing gets safer for all of them. Now, who else is to blame? Coldcard, because they messed up. They fucked up. They did something that was not okay. They should have been way more secure. They should have been way better with the entropy. There's no way around that. They did a bad job there. Now, who is also to blame? The people that got a Coldcard, that watched the BTC session tutorial, that got themselves 10 Bitcoin on there and were too lazy to roll the dice. Because let's make a specific example. Let's say you heard from the biggest guy that promoted it, BTC session, from Coldcard. Most people probably heard it from him. He's the biggest guy when it comes to self-custody tutorials. And in the tutorial that BTC session brought out around Coldcard, and the multiple ones that he brought out, he always mentioned, don't trust them, roll your dice. He even made a specific video about how to roll your dice. He made probably like 10 videos around that, or 100 videos around how to do that. So if you set up your Coldcard and you listen to an influencer, and that influencer is telling you to roll your dice, and you didn't, and you lost your Bitcoin, and now you are blaming the influencer, or you're blaming Coldcard for that, even though Coldcard told you to roll your dice and the influencer is rolling your dice, you're also to blame because you have been lazy. You have been not putting too much effort into it. You've trusted the Bitcoin community saying Coldcard is a great device, which in many ways it still is. But in many ways, it's also not. So this is kind of the problem here. Coldcard should point their fingers at themselves and get better, or they might just get bankrupt. I'm not sure if they survive. They have a small possibility to survive, but they might just go up in flames. Then the people that secured Bitcoin on the Coldcard without entropy, they should also point the finger at themselves. It should be a lesson for them to know if you do self-custody, you should do it right. If you don't want to do it right, like do it exchange, ETF, because the exchanges invest a lot of money to make sure those Bitcoin are safe. They do it for a reason, because they cannot screw up the custody situation of your Bitcoin. Because then if they screw up, they're gone. The business model is gone. We know what with FTX and other exchanges happened that screwed with user funds. Their business model is gone. If you want to survive as a business long term, you make damn sure that the user funds are secure, and they invest a lot of money to make sure that is the case. Now, we also then have the people that do self-custody don't want to rely on Strike, on Kraken, on Coinbase or anything like that. They have to do your own homework. They have to be sure that they actually know what they're doing. So it's a very nuanced, very boring answer, but everyone in that triangle, the hacker, the Coldcard people, and the people that got hacked, should first and foremost point the finger at themselves and think about what could I have done better, because this is the only way how you get stronger. If something bad happens to you, you shouldn't go on the floor and cry like a baby. You should analyze what did go wrong and how can you come back up from that? How can you be stronger from that? like what doesn't kill you make you stronger kind of a thing. You cannot just try to like blame other people, and maybe something good comes out of that, which is people take their self-custody more serious. So maybe the people that lost a Bitcoin paid for a very expensive lesson for everyone else. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's not easy. And I know I can talk because I haven't lost Bitcoin. And honestly, in the first probably like 2-3 years of my Bitcoin journey, and thank God nothing happened, I could have easily lost my Bitcoin because I've had such a bad setup. I was just relying on one device. I stored my seed phrase in my iCloud, which was so horrible like that I did that. I did so many mistakes. I did like, if you make a list of like 30 mistakes, I did them all. and so I know that it's not easy. And I'm deeply grateful and deeply thankful to whoever made it possible, no matter if you believe in God or anything like that, in a higher power, that I did not lose anything in that process. Because if I've lost Bitcoin in the first few years that I had it, I could have not pointed finger at anyone else except myself. Now it's very hard for me to lose my Bitcoin, but it's still possible, obviously. So yeah.
No, I like that answer.
Yeah, like point your finger back at you and learn something.
Yeah, I don't think enough people are pointing the finger at the hackers. I think people are like blaming other people on Twitter, and it's like, dude, they're not the ones that did it. They didn't hack. They didn't steal anything. Blame the hackers. I hope they get caught. I don't know if they will or not, but yeah, I agree. I like that answer.
This is another, sorry to interrupt. This is another interesting aspect of that, because the hackers kind of hacked a really bad crowd. It's probably the worst crowd to steal from, because they will hunt you down till till they die. If some paranoid, like autistic Bitcoiner lost like 10 Bitcoin in that, they will carve out 5 to 10 hours every single week to like try to get off the bottom of that. And many do. So it's like, it's kind of a stupid hack, to be honest, because like, why would you go after that specific crowd? It's not a
well, those coins are going to be being watched constantly, and like from what I heard, they haven't moved or anything. People are watching constantly, so it's like all of that $100 million, that 1,400 Bitcoin sitting in that hacker's wallet, or wallets, multiple, I'm not sure. People are going to watch that for forever. And any time that moves, it's just going to leave another breadcrumb of who they are and where they are. So I don't know if they could even do much with their Bitcoin without getting caught, because
they can do things with it, but it's like, it's hard. Do you remember the Bybit hack where they like got so many Bitcoin?
What year was that one?
Not that long ago. Maybe 1 or 2 years ago. Bybit hack. What was it?
But I don't think I remember that one.
I think it was 2025. Actually, it was last year.
Oh, geez. No.
When and how many BTC? Yeah,
I mean, I guess there's always a way to, if you steal someone's Bitcoin, you can spend it. You can, yeah,
it was February 2025, and it was not Bitcoin. It was actually Ethereum that they hacked, and it was around 400 to 500,000 Ethereum, which were valued at $1.5 billion. So a lot more than that. And they actually converted a big portion of them into Bitcoin. That's why. Yeah, that's why it was so popular, because they stole the Ethereum, but they converted it to Bitcoin, to Monero, to many other different coins. And it was really hard for them, actually, because once you steal Bitcoin, it's just the first step. Or like once you steal Ethereum, it's just the first step. Now you have to make them spendable. Now you have to make them usable. So you have to go from Ethereum to Bitcoin, from Bitcoin to Monero, to like, you have to move it around and shake it around. So like at some point it's really hard or impossible to follow where it is. And there's been a team that worked in shifts and free shifts that was constantly working for days on end, 24/7, to move those coins. It was like a very targeted, very professional, organized attack, and they are trying to move the funds around so that nobody can attack, nobody can catch them afterwards. So it's very hard, but it's possible. So let's see how sophisticated those hackers are. But I just wanted to mention that they might just mess with the wrong crowd.
Yeah, no, for sure, man. Well, awesome, man. I don't want to take up too much more of your time. I appreciate you coming on, though, and this was a lot. This was informative to me. Hopefully, some other people will find some value in this, because it's hard to keep up with all the news. Like, people are busy, and so it's good to get someone on to kind of explain it in a way that I can understand, and hopefully other people can understand. I did want to talk to you about strategy. Because you've been posting a lot about strategy, like stretch, MSTR. So if you don't mind, I kind of wanted to pick your brain on it a little bit about. You already mentioned how Seyr like became the villain, and I'm like, yep, I've done shows on that one. It's kind of funny how that happened. No one had anyone to blame, so they all blamed Seyr, and I think he'll be fine once the price goes up. 30, 40, 50%, people will forget that they ever hated Seyr. Why are you posting so much about stretch and MSTR? Are you fascinated with it right now? Or are you just watching it?
I've ignored strategy for so long, and I had Seyr on my podcast. I didn't buy any strategy. I had so many experts around strategy on my podcast. I never bought it and never recommended it. I always said buy Bitcoin, not strategy. When we last recorded, I was opposed to the idea of buying strategy. I said people just like get into Bitcoin self-custody. Now, December, I think last year, is when I first got a little bit into strategy, just because so many people came on my podcast and talked about strategy. And I was like, okay, I've been always so opposed to it. I've always been so negative around strategy, even though I even had Seyr on my podcast. Why don't I actually look into the stock? Why don't I actually do my own research and figure out why it's a bad idea, or maybe it's a good idea? And so around December, January, February was the time where I really researched. I really was like hard on what is strategy doing? What is their business model? And it was a good time because strategy was already falling off a cliff. It was not as highly valued as it was like when we last spoke. It was, I think, very overrated and very overvalued. And it came down massively. Like, I don't want to bore people with financial terms too much, but MNAV was very high. Now it's quite low. The CEBE was quite high. Now it's quite low. And all of those metrics that you can look at. So it was a nice time to actually research, and I was researching and trying to figure out why are people so passionate about strategy? Why are people coming on my podcast that only talk about strategy and you cannot talk about anything else with them? And I actually discovered that I kind of like it, what they're doing. I kind of like what they have in store. And the one thing that got me over the edge of actually researching it and getting a little bit bigger on strategy was the sentence a guest said on my podcast. And he said, if you're bullish on Bitcoin and you think Bitcoin will be the biggest asset in the world, the most valuable asset in the world, wouldn't it be logical for the company that has the most amount of Bitcoin to be also the most valuable company on planet Earth? And then I was like looking up, what's the market cap of strategy? And we can like just quickly do that. I think it's like 30 billion right now.
Yeah, it's not much.
Yeah, it's like 20 or 30 billion market cap of strategy. Let's see. Yeah, it's like 38 billion currently. And then biggest company by market cap let's see, I think it's Nvidia probably currently. Yeah, Nvidia has $5 trillion of market cap. So if you divide 5.3 trillion divided by the 38 that they have, that's 150x in market cap, just reaching to be the biggest company in planet Earth. So that got me interested of like, oh yeah, if I'm that bullish on Bitcoin that I think everything will flow into Bitcoin, isn't it also logical that the people and the companies and the institutions that hold the most amount of Bitcoin have amazing opportunities and amazing possibilities to make huge amounts of money? So like once you got, like, look at the central bank, they're holding a lot of gold and they got really, really rich and really, really powerful because everyone just was holding their gold with them. And eventually they misused that power. And so we've seen in history, every time an entity figures out that holding the hardest asset, the best asset, is a really good idea when you can keep bringing new people into that system of them giving you money to buy the hardest assets. And that's what Stretch is doing. Stretch is basically trying to be a product where strategy can raise more money forever, unlimited, to buy more Bitcoin. And people just get an 11% yield for that. And the yield probably goes down over time to like, and now I think it's 12%. So the yield will go down to 11, 10, 9 over time, but it will be quite high for some time now. So that's my like very superficial, very high level thesis around why the largest Bitcoin holder will, in my opinion, also be the largest largest corporation on planet Earth. And I mean that. I think Strategy will be the top one company at some point in the whole world, and people will write stories and make movies around what Strategy and Seyr is doing. And I think it's because of Stretch. It's just because of Stretch, and the importance of that product for a company like Strategy cannot be overstated. It's so huge, and so maybe we can schedule a second podcast to like dedicate that topic on, because I can talk on that just like 2 hours alone. But that's my high level why I'm so bullish on Strategy right now.
Okay. All right. We'll do a second episode on just solely on MicroStrategy, strategy, Stretch, all that. We'll save that for a separate podcast, because that sounds fun. Because I don't want to go too long. Usually if you go super long in a podcast, people tune out after a while. So we'll do that. I like that idea.
I have one more thing that I want to say about Strategy. I think it's the most misunderstood stock in the whole world, because it's also one of the most shortest stocks in the world, by the way. I don't know if it's number one currently, but it was at some point number one most shorted stock in the world. And I think it is because the Bitcoiners, the hardcore Bitcoiners, don't get it, because they are focused on self-custody. They hate anything that uses Bitcoin and is not Bitcoin, which I was just like 9 months ago myself, by the way. It took me a long time to figure that out. And then the TradFi people, the fiat people, they hate it as well, because they do something with Bitcoin. And so Strategy is in that place somewhere between fiat and Bitcoin. So like if you think about two islands, the one island is Bitcoin, the other island is fiat. And Strategy is trying to build the bridge between fiat and Bitcoin, and they're getting hate on both ends. So it's very misunderstood, and that's why I really post a lot about it, because I think people don't get it. I think most of my people that watch my content get Bitcoin by now. I think like if you followed me for any period of time, I think you know why I hold 80+% of my net worth in Bitcoin self-custody, and why I'm super bullish on Bitcoin. And I also want to state, just as a disclaimer, Strategy is a security. It's not Bitcoin. It does not have the same freedom aspects of Bitcoin. it is not a certainty just because Bitcoin goes up that strategy is going up. Strategy has absolutely no guarantee to actually outperform Bitcoin. It could also underperform Bitcoin. So there's no guarantees, and it's a security. It's not a commodity. So please consult someone that actually has a clue, because I'm always wrong.
Yeah. No, I wish I held onto my strategy stock. I bought it when they first started buying Bitcoin, and I started buying their stock. And once I made, like whatever, 300, 400%, I don't even remember, I sold it because I was like, why would I not sell it? Right? Like I didn't understand it either at the time. I was like, they're buying Bitcoin. I own Bitcoin. But at the time I also was like, I own Ethereum, I own Dogecoin, I own all this other crap. And so I was selling that. So I sold my strategy. I sold all my other shit coins and put it all into Bitcoin at the time. And so it was a good trade-off. But if I had held that strategy, I would have outperformed Bitcoin by quite a bit, I think, which is, it's fine. I do own some strategy and I am interested in it. So I would love to do a second episode at some point, soonish, hopefully. And we can do another episode follow up about strategy and MSTR and stuff, dude. That'd be great.
Anytime. I think it needs more coverage. People don't understand what the stock actually is doing.
Okay, awesome. Well, thanks, man. Where can people find you? And if they want to hear more, about what you're doing?
You can find me on YouTube, on Twitter. Those are my two main platforms. No, actually, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and those like podcast platforms, and Twitter. Those are like the three main platforms. If you're on YouTube or Spotify or Apple Podcast or Fountain, it does not matter. It's like they all get the same content. I do have an experimental second channel on YouTube that's just exclusively on YouTube. Let's see where I go from there. But yeah, those are the places. Just Google me, like search my name, where like I usually pop up.
Sweet. All right, man. Well, hey, I appreciate you doing this. Thanks for coming on, and we'll do another one, and hopefully soon, man. But thank you so much.
Absolutely, it was a pleasure. Was really pleasant talking with you, and I love your curiosity, because you're a learner. You're someone that doesn't have a strong opinion just to hold a strong opinion. You have strong opinions if you have a strong conviction, and in fields where you want to learn something, you're a curious learner. That's also how I operate, and I think it's the best way to approach life.
Yeah, I have to. That's the only way I can continue to learn, is I just have to ask dumb questions. I have to ask a lot of them, and if I don't get to my answer, then maybe I'm not that interested in it anymore. So I just keep asking, man. But thank you guys for listening. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't, and check out Robin's videos. He's got some fun videos over there on his channel too. So thank you guys, and we will talk to you next time. Peace.